Rural Americans are importing tiny Japanese pickup trucks. I've seriously contemplated getting one of these. Street legal, fuel efficient, simple. But when I started researching them, I started to see a pattern. It's hard to find anyone in rural areas willing to work on them, and not all mini trucks are equal. Some are not shipped correctly and have frame rust issues. There are YouTubers that cover some of the models and the gotchas and things to inspect. I would never buy one without inspecting it locally. I've seen a couple of them in town and the owners somehow manage to keep them running. I am leaning more towards a street legal side-by-side as there are a few dealers here, and they have people to perform more advanced repairs. Downside is they cost more, especially if I want a fully enclosed cab with windshield and heater, something that is a must during the winter here. Upside is I can take it into the mountains and also use it to run into town for groceries. An upside to either of these options is that these are the remaining vehicles that do not as of yet have any of the telemetry, dashboard infotainment systems, pay-as-you-go for subscriptions for standard features, etc.
I'm Jake from the article. The trucks have all just gone through auction and have inspection reports. Mine I bought for $2,000 was grade 3.5 and what I'd consider pristine for a 25-year-old truck. The Japanese are pretty trustworthy people to do business with, and they build great vehicles. One thing the author left out was the fascination I had with the whole process. Watching auctions, assignment to a ship, tracking it through the ocean and storms, and watching on video as it passed through the Panama Canal. Then the customs and importation paperwork with CBP, going to the port, the driving 200 miles home in my new truck, that had road manners more akin to my golf cart than anything actually on the road around me. I-95 was terrifying. I barely got off the on-ramp before looking for the next off-ramp to find backroads for the rest of the journey.
From a quick Google, these all seem to be cars from the 90s. Did you see any FPR sale that are less than a decade old?
I seriously miss compact trucks, like the Mazda B-Series Ford Courier, Ford Ranger, before it became a mid-size in 2019. These kinds of trucks might more to your liking. Sure, they aren't as small and cute as the imports, but your local auto store can still get you parts for them. They are fun to drive, fairly fuel efficient, and are capable of hauling material from the home center. I learned to drive stick, and how to pop the clutch when you have a dead battery, in a Ford Courier on the high plains of West Texas.
I still drive a manual 2002 Toyota Tacoma, and you'll have to claw it out of my dead hands for this exact reason. I really love the utility of a pickup truck, but I absolutely despise the size of any of them in the US in the past couple of decades. I wish they still made mid-sized pickups that were actually mid-sized. A Tacoma is nearly the size of Tundra was 20 years ago, and a Tundra today is like the size of a damn school bus.
Yeah, what the hell happened? And I miss my manual, 1980s. Chevy love.
From what I understand, the two main drivers are safety standards, e.g. crumple zones, emissions and efficiency regulations that vary with the footprint of the vehicle. Vehicles with larger footprint, with X length, are allowed to have lower fuel economy numbers, which perversely means that one solution to a truck having poor fuel economy is to make it bigger.
The MY 2022 Maverick is what the new Ranger should have been. And the Hyundai Santa Cruz also was introduced in MY 2022. Finally, some steps in the right direction, at least.
You can get the Ford Maverick.
They probably share a lot of the same drivetrain, engine, etc., parts from vehicles of the same era. If you are mechanically inclined and have the right tools, you might be able to do some of the work yourself. Most auto mechanics familiar with older Japanese branded vehicles should be able to work on them like they would on a regular US import. The biggest issue I have is that they are right-hand drive. I'd be hesitant driving a mini truck on streets and highways, even if it's licensed. This would be a non-issue if the intent is to leave it on private property, unlicensed. I wish mini trucks had a bigger demand here. I'd like a pickup, but I don't need the monster trucks that are on the market these days. Just something to move furniture, appliances, and junk around town.
There are some smaller options these days. The Honda Ridgeline has led the way here as a very livable, smaller although not small truck. The Ford Maverick is even smaller. It is a bit more bare bones, but it might work for you.
The problem with the Maverick, as others have mentioned, is that they squander valuable bed space by adding a cab to the design. To me, a pickup truck is a pretty utilitarian thing. I don't need a cab. I have other vehicles if I need to take passengers. I remember pricing out a pickup a few years ago, and it was hard to find one that wasn't already configured with a cab. I guess the market demand is larger for people who have kids, but still want a pickup for whatever reason.
I wish the actual story was US manufacturers announce line of small Japanese-style pickup trucks. Importing adds friction both up front and for ongoing sourcing of parts and maintenance. Just give us some options for local pickup trucks utilizing existing repair facilities. Instead, everyone bitches about truck drivers having such large vehicles, when that's all that's on offer here.
I've looked into one of these and they're completely illegal in my state. No way to register them without gaming different DMV stations and getting a clueless DMV rep who doesn't know what they're looking at to register it. This is Oregon. Really unfortunate situation, as these fit a lot of use cases that would previously require something as big as a gas-guzzling Ford F-150 otherwise.
I think most people register them out of state for this reason. Minnesota and Arkansas being the two go-to, also for bypassing vehicle road readiness inspections.
Really unfortunate situation, as these fit a lot of use cases that would previously require something as big as a gas-guzzling Ford F-150 otherwise. What about the Ford Maverick? The only issue is that the bed is fairly small, but it looks like these minis have small beds and low towing capacities as well. And Ford makes a hybrid version. Don't misunderstand. I'm not arguing against relaxing the rules in Oregon.
Kinda ironic that big city dwellers are buying larger and larger trucks every year, just to take them on grocery shopping runs, while rural farm workers are moving in the opposite direction for actual hauling.
The local Mahindra dealer also seems to be doing a brisk business with their Roxas. They're almost literally a 1,950 seconds Jeep with a modern diesel engine in them. It's the same market niche, small off-highway use, utility vehicles. And at least out here, you're allowed to run around on the roads, at least some with them, to get between fields.
I presume you're not in USA. I can't imagine being allowed to import the Mahindra copy-paste Jeep into USA. Those clones are so blatant. Wish they added some more Indian flair to them. I can't believe Jeep still bothered to enter the Indian market with that on the roads.
New mini trucks should be legal here. If you don't need a huge truck, you should be able to buy something smaller.
I've seen a few of these in Maine in driveways and yards fields, but only recently have I seen a couple on the road. I was surprised to see them. I believe JDM vans cannot be registered here, but perhaps that's changed recently. If made illegal to drive on the roads, it's not clear why these would be preferable to side-by-sides, other than novelty, or for folks that really like to wrench.
Has to be 25 plus years old, then you can register it no problem.
And unlike a side-by-side, it can also be driven legally on local roads. Side-by-sides can, with a few accessories, horn, license plate lights, turn signals, etc., be driven legally on roads. Most dealers are happy to sell and attach these high-profit items for you.
I can see the utility, but most country road speed limits are going to be 50 miles per hour plus. I wouldn't want to drive it there. Dirt roads or on your land, sure. Regardless, they look pretty cool. A cheaper option, but lower quality, might be some small trucks from China. It will also be interesting to see how Ford's Maverick catches on. May not quite fill this niche, but seems like a good option overall.
Problem with the Ford Maverick is that it's only available in crew cab with a 4.5 feet bed, which is really a subpar configuration if your priorities are in moving stuff rather than people.
Hi, I live in the boonies and own one of these mini trucks. A, they do 60 miles per hour okay if you have a 4-speed one. 5-speed ones will do 70 just fine. B, country roads are generally 45 inches most states. C, Chinese mini trucks have a hell of a lot less support for about the same price. D, Ford Mavericks are DOA here. If you want a work van, you buy a work van.
Can you expand on what you mean by DOA in this context?
Is the Maverick DOA? I see the all over my rural farm area, and people are paying $8,000 over sticker for the privilege of getting one of the few in stock.
Must be somewhere in the flatlands then. The smaller truck market is dominated by Toyota, Nissan and Chevrolets, and Ford Rangers. Mavericks are mostly city dweller mom mobiles at best. Fantastic. Now can suburban moms do the same?
Dead on arrival. Not enough room for the kids and dogs.
It's easy to throw rocks when you personally don't have 3-4 kids.
So what did people do when they had 3-4 kids in the 80s? I see families of 4 with huge SUVs these days. If anything, they want a key van, right? It maximizes the size of the vehicle, cuboid on wheels, and minimizes the cost for that volume.
Please buy a minivan if this is your situation.
Why? What do you care what he drives?
If you're in California, this isn't for you, sadly.
I don't know if those little tires can handle muddy, unpaved country roads like a tractor can.